Welcome to Paranormal Central, broadcasting live from Central California with your hosts Jeffrey Gonzalez and Alan Thomas. Broadcasting video worldwide at ParanormalCentral.net and broadcasting audio on the Dark Matter Network at ArtBell.com.
Hello everyone, welcome to Sac UFO Con.com out in Sacramento, California. We are broadcasting live for the first annual event, 2012. All right, Ed, get your you-know-what over here and let's talk some UFOs and the night vision stuff. Yeah, bring it all, buddy, if you want. If you want to show and tell, go for it. I mean, we only have like 2 million people listening, so.
Oh, well, I'll leave my clothes on.
Please leave your clothes on. I want to at least have 1 million. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have Ed Grimsley on. He's going to be sitting. If you just go and just Google his frickin' name, you're going to have pages and pages and pages. He is a man who first came out with I want to say with the usage of night vision goggles to actually see UFOs up in orbit, in space. Now, you can look outside with the naked eye, and you can see satellites moving all around, and you can see the 737s and 737s at nighttime. But there is a lot more stuff happening way above all that. And sometimes your naked eye cannot capture this stuff. And so what Ed has done, he has come up with a way to actually see what's going on up in space. And here, put this on. And he's going to give us a demonstration on what the hell is going and how he got started. And because his name, if you are involved in UFOs, you know who this guy is. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, Ed, welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All righty.
So, we were talking last night. You were in here for a little bit when we were trying to fine-tune everything, and you were telling me how you got started. And I want you to just tell the people really quick how old you were, what were you doing outside when this all happened?
Well, the first time I ever saw any UFOs is I was about 10, 12 years old, and I was on top of Mount Santa Elena. And my dad and a couple other people, we were hiking, and two craft approached on the side of the mountain over the edge, level with us, and my dad says, "There's a UFO." And I go, "I know," and he says, "Hold still." And me being who I am, I waved slowly to them, and it wobbled back. And so I thought, they're smart. And I don't have a flying saucer, so they're smarter than me. So it went on, and I never saw anything again for a while. And when I was 16, camping trip, hunting, my father, mother, a friend of ours named Jess, and some other people from Calistoga were in a campsite up in the Sierras. It was about 35 miles out of Truckee. And I looked up at dark out of the sleeping bag, and there was craft flying, and they were going against each other and battling, blowing up one another. And I yelled out to my dad, "Dad, there's a war going on up here. There's craft shooting each other down." And he yelled back, "Go back to sleep, you're dreaming." I said, "I haven't been to sleep." I said, "I'm not dreaming, crawl out and look." And by then I had yelled to a neighboring campsite, and they went out and started to look. And they were basically, "What the hell's going on up there?"
Now, you were up in the mountains then, so it was a lot. Obviously, when you go up higher, the visibility is a lot clearer, and the stars basically just, boom, right up at you.
It was one of those kinds of nights that there's not a bit of smoke or fog or anything. And it was crystal clear, and you could see these stars unbelievable. And it was with the naked eye. And you could see them, plain as day.
Wow. Wow.
And the battle went on. My dad went back to sleep, and so did some other people about an hour and a half later after watching. And I'm the curious guy, so I stayed up all night And I laid there and watched, and to see them go into different formations and to make maneuvers and how to circle and head-on runs and firing back at others and that. And I counted 45 craft that night when I started counting after a while. So probably more than 45 were blown up. And, you know, it cost me like, it cost my mind like, who are they? What are they dying for? And where are they, from here or out there?
Now, you were like, what, 16 or something like that?
I was 16 then.
So, now, I'm not trying to like tell everybody your age, but we're
that's
talking...
okay. I'm 112.
So we're talking maybe in the, what, in the 40s, maybe? In the 50s?
No, that was 1961.
1961, okay. You're not that old. Come on.
Well, no, I'm younger than 112.
So
I'm 67, hoping to make 68. It depends on if the government catches up.
I was gonna say, you know, you keep doing this shit, and you're gonna be 6 feet underground like all of us here.
No, they're gonna put me in a shallow one.
Your gadgets. When did you start, or how did you figure out to even get night vision involved in this?
Thank you.
Sweet.
Ooh, nice and cold. Mm-hmm. Now, I basically hadn't seen craft flying and battling like that for a long time, and I knew that they were there, and I kept wondering, are they still there? Are they still fighting? Or what's going on? So I found a big 5 pair of night vision goggles that were the $300-400 bracket, and I bought those. And when you get home, it's lucky if you can see it's a cat or a dog in the backyard, and they're very low grade, and you're wasting your money and your time. So
these are basically what he's been using to skywatch. Now, how do you record using your...
Okay, well, let me get going and I'll throw that all in. Okay. Now, these are night vision goggles. If you want to see properly and do it right, contact me, ask any information. My phone number is 707-478-2540. I try to answer the phone all the time, but try to limit your calls at 2 or 3 in the morning. I get those all over the world. And lately, I'm kind of like sleepless in Calistoga.
Keep drinking the liquid nitro, you'll be fine.
And be doing the nitro here. So, in these goggles, you can get different magnifications. Magnifications on the end.
Sorry, I'll turn you up so you can talk away from it.
Magnifications on the end is the 3 power, 5 power slip over. You put those on, it's okay. I get cameras. Do you have one here?
A camera, or a cell phone? You mean, or a regular camera?
Okay, you can. You got a cell? Well, I got a cell phone too. But you can actually take your cell phone with a little camera lens, turn it to record. You can look through the right eye with the left eye, see what you're looking at. You can hold your cell phone recorder up to the lens on the other side, and it comes out pretty good.
Wow.
But a good camera hooked up to the back so that the opening goes to the left. Have the camera mounted behind here. Look through this goggle with either the left eye, or if you want, you can turn it over and look with the right. Your filming will be upside down, but then everything else in the world is too. And you can zoom these things in with a camera through the back hooked up. And Bigfoot is vanished, so you can see these goggles.
Now, how much does something like that cost right there?
Well, there's different tubes that go in these and different qualities and generations and that, but stay away from anything generation 2, and don't take anything that unless it's at least generation HP or plus. But generation 3 is where it is good. And like I say, call me. I became a dealer with all the major night vision companies. They love me because people are calling them and buying goggles, and they're getting top dollar for it. And I try to give people a break on the goggles, but at the time there are people saying, oh, internet this, internet that, and they're basically taking a pair of these goggles and they can buy cheaper tubes and put them in. So you think you got a PVS 7, and you might have a PVS 7 with an old Gen 2 tube, or basically a knockoff tube out of China, or maybe Russia. Russia has some good tubes. They have some good goggles. I've got a set of goggles that are set up the way I want them, and it's part Russian, part French. And they're as good as the American goggle, by far is good. But you can take them in and out of the country, and you're not suffering any penalties or law, because the technology law doesn't want these goggles to leave the country. And if you live in America, at this time we can still get a pair. But if you plan on taking them out of the country, you could get in trouble. If you're not a citizen and you get a pair of these in this country, you could cause problems. So
what is the price? Because a lot of people are wondering, man, this is so cool, I want to do it, but, price is a big thing. What is the least amount you can get away with to start something, to start a project?
There was some goggles that I was selling through my website, and they were $1,800. And they were the cheapest ones that was working, and it was all good. But it's like I have people in Australia that have had to send them back to the States twice and get a switch or some other thing, and they basically are still good. They have quality, you can see, but they're falling down on the security and the end of them and performance. And there's goggles that are similar to this for $3,400, and you can hook up cameras and do things on them and that. But I try to get people into my Skywatch Club, and it's like $20 to join, and then I have a way to give them a discount without cutting factory throat. And there's good goggles, the different tubes. I can get them down around $2,700 from 32, and $3,900. Depends on the tube, depends on the color. 100 goggle or tubes, there's maybe 2 or 3 that is a special color and a tint that's better than others to use for watching in the sky. And I try to get those, and I call them Skywatch goggles. And I try to get them, and it depends on how many tubes I got at the factory, but I try to do that for $2,900, and it's just beautiful. It works better than the regular goggles, and high dollar, like 4th generation Pinnacle grades. A lot of times you're spending money that you don't need to. Spend it on a magnification end, or put it on a camera and put it on the back end and zoom 20, 30 power and start filming these so that you can send your film into YouTube or send it to me. We can evaluate it, we can try to put it out to the world, And the only way they're going to admit is by sticking it in their face and saying,
well, here it is.
What is this?
Mm-hmm.
What's this strange craft firing up here? And we have pictures of it. We've got pictures of craft blowing other craft up. And I don't think they want us to show that.
Mm-mm. All right, everybody. That was Ed Grimsley. I appreciate you hanging.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on my show tonight.
And I'll be down there soon if I live through this.
All right. We are here with David Weatherly, and we're going to talk about his latest book, The Black Eye Children. And if you look at the cover, why don't you zoom in on that cover and scare the crap out of people? Because I tell you, that would do it for me at nighttime, getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning and seeing something like that. There you go. David, how's it going?
Great, man. Thanks for having me
Hey,
here.
not a problem at all. Glad you could stop by and let's chat for a while. Paranormal. Tell me about yourself. For the people out there who don't know who you are, let's give them a description of what you've done in the past and go from there.
Brief bio. I got interested in the paranormal when I was a kid. I've been actively investigating for over 35 years now. So out in the field and doing the research along with that whole spectrum of the paranormal, because when I got involved with it, you said paranormal and people knew it wasn't just haunted sites. It was the whole spectrum. So everything from ghosts to cryptids to ufology and the whole spectrum. And that, that's where I am now.
So where are you're from? Where do you live?
I currently live in Arizona.
Arizona, right? Okay. Is there's a spot out there, I think. I mean, when you came, I've known about you for a long time. What is your main love, though? And I know we were just talking about the X-Files. So that we can go there.
We bonded already with that.
We can talk about that all. We can talk about that all afternoon. But we're not going to piss people off. So oh well. All right. You have your crypto. You have your UFO. Your ghosto. What is your most favorite one to go after?
Wow. Over time it kind of shifts back and forth, but actually what it's become the last few years are what I consider paranormal hotspots. These beds of activity that exhibit UFO sightings, cryptids, the whole spectrum, because, you can get me on a rant about this. One of the things that I have an issue with is that over the years, all this political, I'm trying to think of how to say this in a kind way.
Hey, we're on the internet, so it doesn't matter.
Cool. All these political agendas have crept in, and they've really screwed up paranormal investigation to some terms. You've got UFO groups that don't want to hear anything to do with Bigfoot. You've got Bigfoot organizations that don't want anything to do with this aspect. That's bullshit. We've got to look at this from a holistic perspective and understand that there are areas where there's an incredible level of activity. Why? Why are there cryptids showing up where there are a rash of UFO sightings and where there are haunted sites? There's a reason for that, and that's what we need to explore even more.
Exactly. And you were a while back we were talking about the night crawlers.
Oh yeah,
dude, the night crawler, the Fresno. And I totally agree with you, because Fresno is just what you were talking about. Mm-hmm. You have your Bigfoot, your UFOs, your night crawlers, your ghost. Now we're talking, things with large wings flying over Fresno too. We're Mothman.
Right.
That, and the more we talk about it and get it out there, then the people are going to know who you are, and then they're going to think, okay, I need to go tell somebody my story, because they're going to you're not going to laugh at somebody who comes at you and say, hey, I saw something last week. I need to tell you about it.
Exactly, and that's an issue because, I've investigated cases where the people were embarrassed to tell all the facts because they didn't want to say that, yeah, I saw a Bigfoot, but there was a UFO in the sky that got my attention to begin with. They're terrified that they're going to be laughed at.
Exactly.
And depending on who you are and who what kind of culture they've been raised in, some of these things are acceptable. They can say, okay, well, I saw this creature. I don't know what it is. Maybe it was a bear, upright bear, but I just want to know what it was. But to start talking about lights in the sky, then that's taboo, and that's a whole different level they don't want to go to.
Right. Now, have you had a lot of reports where Bigfoot and UFOs are in the same?
There are a surprising number of them, and what I found was when I started looking at that, that a lot of them are swept under the rug. You send a UFO report to MUFON and you say you saw a Bigfoot at the same time, they're not interested. The Bigfoot people think you're, it's a flying saucer nut. We don't want to hear that Bigfoot report. And it's a shame, and there's a lot of valuable data out there that people like us, I'm thinking, gosh, there's two of us. We get one more, we can form a new lone gunman, right?
Dude, I like it. I love it, man. I totally agree with you. That's one of the reasons why I left MUFON.
Yeah.
I used to be MUFON for 2 years. And they did not want to hear about the other stuff I was doing. On this show, they would not allow me to talk about UFOs along with the Bigfoot stuff.
Right.
So I said, you know what? See ya. So that's where I am with that. It taught me a great deal about investigating UFOs, granted. But I'm with you at that. I think everything is somehow interconnected, and I always go back to that show on Sci-Fi, Eureka.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And Fresno is there, and I'm sure where you live, I'm sure there's spots over there that everything's there's a lot of stuff going on. And why? Ley lines, wormholes, portals of some type, high energy fields, military underground bases. There's a lot of stuff to look at. And then when you finally open up your eyes a little bit, which I have done in Fresno, I have noticed things that were right in front of me. And now I'm going, well, maybe there is something here only because there is a lot of military, and they're here for a reason. In your side, where you have investigated, you're telling me all this is happening. Is there a heavy military presence in that area as well? Do you know?
I've looked at a number of hot spots. I've done a lot of investigation in the Uinta Basin of Utah, which is most known for having Skinwalker Ranch sort of at the center of it. Now, the basin itself is a pretty large area, and what you find there is a lot of locations that are haunted, a lot of cryptid reports, and of course a massive number of UFO encounters, along with all the strange lore revolving around Skinwalker Ranch. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that's happening is that there are a lot more of these hot spots around the country and around the world than I think people realize.
Exactly.
And there are two things happening. One is that people are probing around a little bit more and trying to find this information. And two, there are more reports coming out. Mm-hmm. Some of my recent work has been in the Superstition Mountains of Arizona. And you talk about a weird location. Now, this is renowned for being the location of the Lost Dutchman's gold mine. So right there we've got lost treasure with a ton of strange synchronicities and weird mysteries surrounding that. But going back to Native American lore.
I was going to say Indians, Native American.
I've talked to a lot of Native American people, and there are all these weird reports of these creatures that live underground in the superstitions. There are cave openings that appear and disappear.
The creatures, reptilians maybe?
Reptilians. Let me tell you, I haven't talked about this much. This is a very recent case, and I can give some details. I had a woman that contacted me recently, and she was driving on a highway in Arizona, south of the Superstition Mountains. Now, she lives in the region. The Superstition Mountains, for anyone who doesn't know, it has a very distinctive silhouette. She was far away from the mountains, but she was driving on the highway at night. Her car suddenly just died. She was able to coast off to the side of the road. The next thing she remembers is seeing a disc with multicolored lights in the sky over her car. She blacked out. She came to, feeling the heels of her feet being dragged across the desert. She saw the Superstition Mountains in the distance. She saw a reptilian creature holding her by her arms. It looked at her. She blacked out a second time. When she came to again, now she's at the entrance to a cave, and there are now two of these creatures that are reptilian humanoid forms. They look at her. She blacks out again. The next thing she remembers is waking up in her car.
I've heard the reptilians are not the friendliest type of aliens on what we have here, if you believe in that or not. I've even heard as far as they could have probably eaten that person up. That's what I've heard.
Well, there's a lot of native lore that indicates that these creatures live underground and that they do indeed attempt to lure people in, and the people disappear. They're never heard from again.
And that's what's going on in the Yosemite National Park.
Exactly.
and we're trying to figure out, okay, is it Bigfoot or is it something else? And David Paulides' book Missing 411, when we got into it, is like, I don't know. At first I thought, okay, it could be just Bigfoot, but there's something else going on because there's a lot of UFO sightings up there as well. So it's like, I don't know. And right. it's nowadays it's scary to go camping. I mean, like for example, the night crawlers. I guess the names for night crawlers. You were telling me somewhere in Arizona there's something else going on over there that's similar creatures over here. That's totally news to me when you blew me out of the water with that. And we're not going to really tell, because this is a new case for you. But these creatures, whatever they are, and we have all kinds of stuff going on, and how we are finding out is just by accident, because security camera, that's how right. they, what the hell is happening when we're asleep and everybody's asleep?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, and a lot of times my sky watches are out from 11 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the morning. That's when all this stuff happens. So when you go out and investigate, when you get a call, do you actually physically go out and spend a great deal of time at that particular location? Like if it's a Bigfoot or a creature, I mean.
Absolutely, I do. To be honest, I tried very hard to first really vet all that information first. Usually try to have multiple conversations with the person and get the details. I like to get the details in email if possible, so that I can really go over the account and, as you know, hear it multiple times and get a vibe for the person, right. Especially if it's a location that's far away.
Because you don't know if they actually saw what they thought they saw.
Right.
And you could lose valuable time going all the way out there, spending all kind of your own personal money, and then finding out it was a freaking dog that she saw, and exactly. There it is, and it would and I totally agree. So you have to really drill them in a way over the phone,
yeah.
and sometimes it's hard. It hurts because you need to get all the facts, and sometimes these people who you're interviewing, they're in a lineup for the FBI or something, but we have to do that.
That's true.
You have to.
And I think being in the field so long, to a certain level, you reach a point where you can often tell in the first few minutes. Sure. I mean, I find that from my personal experience.
I think you're right on that. Then
you just have to push it a little bit more and start factoring in the other aspects. What was going on? If it's a UFO sighting, was there a meteor shower? Is there a military aircraft in the area? Look at all the different aspects. If it's a cryptid, what are the animals that are native to the region? Have there been any other strange reports? It's one of the first things I often look at is, okay, we've got this really weird report. What else is going on in that area? Is it some kind of a hotbed, or is it an area that gets a lot of Bigfoot sightings? Or you have to do that because, like you're saying, it's our time and money. And I get so many people contacting me that I really have to narrow it down and focus on the ones that do have some good potential.
Facebook, social media, I'm sure you have a website. What is the number one best way people get a hold of you? To me, lately, it's been like Facebook.
Yeah, the best point of contact at the moment for me is I've got a blog. It's twocrowsparanormal.blogspot.com. Spell out the two, T-W-O, Two Crows. And there's a badge on there from my Facebook. I welcome people to friend
Absolutely.
Me on Facebook. I've got a Twitter feed. Everything else links right from there. And that's a place that I try to post some of the current accounts that come in on some of these cases that I'm working on. And, of course, if Facebook, like you're saying, it's the easiest thing right now.
It's the easiest thing.
Yeah.
What is the last coolest case you've worked on where you actually found some killer evidence?
I've had some good haunted sites, but the one that springs to mind, I don't know if I'd say I found killer evidence, but in the Uinta Basin of Utah, I was called in, spoke to these people a number of times. They believed that their house was haunted by a poltergeist because they were having some really wild activity going on in the house, objects moving and so forth. I went into it thinking initially it was a potential poltergeist case. However, when I got there and had several dialogues with these people, I began to realize there was something much more going on, because the father finally admitted to me that he had seen a strange creature in the backyard of his house, and that what he witnessed was a wolf that was bipedal. Now, the case became more complicated because we ended up, I put some trail cams out on the cameras, trail cams out on the trees, which disappeared. There was no evidence that straps had been cut or anything. It just vanished. We found out that every time this wolf-like creature would appear around their house, the activity within the house would follow. So poltergeist activity in the house after the sighting of a strange bipedal wolf-like creature. Now, this gentleman calls me one night, 2 a.m., and says, you've got to get over here. There's all this noise. This thing was on the roof of their house, walking back and forth, back and forth. And right after that, the level of activity in their house, again, really kicked up. You know, we did, initially went in and did some EVPs, electronic voice phenomena recordings, and we were getting all these strange noises. This is in the house, growls, and what a lot of people would assume was some kind of demonic energy or entity communicating. I didn't believe that's what it was. I think it was somehow connected, obviously, to this creature that was appearing. The family they were absolutely terrified at this point. He had kids, and he wanted to make sure his family was protected, and they finally moved out of the house, so we haven't been able to do a whole lot more with that case. But it's a very strange thing. It's something we're still studying, and there are other areas. Again, that's in the Uinta Basin. There are other cases in that area that are very similar.
So he actually saw a wolf-like creature walking on two legs.
Yeah, he did.
Wow. I mean, that's something to where in Fresno or in our areas, the wolf man is not even, that hasn't even been brought up. That's actually very cool.
Yeah, it falls within the spectrum of the wolf man or the dog man, as some people call it.
Right.
And it harkens back to some of the classic accounts from Skinwalker Ranch about this bulletproof wolf and this weird wolf-like creature that manifested to some of the people there.
I mean, can you hear us talking right now about these monsters? I mean, 30 years ago, well, actually 30 years ago you started, but I mean, seriously, we're actually talking about freaking monsters.
Well, and then again, here's something else, Jeff. We go back to that region, the native lore, skinwalkers. People that are practicing what they call witchcraft, dark magic, in order to shapeshift into a wolf or coyote or dog-like creature in order to work magic or do whatever their sinister purpose is.
And let's talk about now the shows that are on TV, like True Blood.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you have the vampire movies and The Walking Dead. I think that there's a reason those are on TV. I personally think that they're either trying to condition us maybe a little bit, but I think more people are now accepting the fact that maybe this stuff is real.
And not only are they on television, but they're immensely popular. True Blood and Walking Dead
see that blonde girl over there, my wife? She's a True Blood freak and a vampire freak.
So
you're right.
These things are speaking to people, at a deeper level, and we have to question why. Why now? What's the correlation?
I don't know. I see where you're coming from. I mean, this stuff is so popular. I mean, zombies.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? People dig this stuff. And, and I think that people realize that, and in their hearts, they know that some of this stuff is for real. And I think they're liking the vampires and the werewolves and the True Bloods is because this is their way of telling everybody, I believe in this stuff. I think it's for real. Actually, not coming out and say it right up to somebody's face, but if they like the True Blood, the vampires, or whatever, then they're saying, there's a good possibility this stuff is for real. The black-eyed children. What the hell is that? What? I mean, you trying to give people nightmares or what?
This is one of the creepiest phenomena that I've encountered in all my years of investigating these things. And not only is it creepy, it crosses all the boundaries that we're talking about. To give a brief description, these are children that are showing up on people's doorsteps They're showing up at cars and parking lots, places of work. I've got an account of one showing up at a yacht.
Wait, during the daytime or night or the nighttime?
The bulk of the encounters take place right as the sun is going down, so it's still light out.
Okay.
So people are getting a very clear account, a very clear picture of these kids. And what's happening is the most often what we hear for an age range is from 8 to 13 years old. It appears to be a human child, except for the fact that the eyes are solid black. Not just the pupil, the entire sclera, pupil, everything, solid black, just like you would see with the common depiction of the grays.
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, the skin is usually described as either being pale and pasty. Some people describe it as looking artificial. So there's always a strange appearance to the skin. And here's something, I do very detailed interviews of these accounts.
Okay.
No one ever sees a blemish on the skin. Never seen a freckle, a mole, any kind of a scar. These are teenage kids. Why no pimples? Nothing. There's never a blemish on the skin. These kids show up. They never use doorbells. It's always a knock. You hear this long, steady knock that just persists until the door is answered. They insist on being invited in. They don't intrude. They ask for an invitation. So you're talking about vampires. We're into classic vampire lore.
I was going to say that they cannot enter that front door unless they are invited
We're into classic vampire and demon lore. But here's another weird thing. They attempt. A lot of people believe these kids are attempting mind control. They speak in a monotone fashion. They repeat the same phrases over and over again. If you try to engage them and ask them questions and interact, they just default back to saying the same phrase again. Well, just invite us in. This won't take long.
Children of the Corn?
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I mean, come on. I mean, that's like right there.
Well, honestly, when I first heard about these accounts, it was in the late 90s, and there were a couple of accounts on the internet. It seemed initially like this could be an urban myth. So it was compelling, it was interesting, but I kind of set it aside. Then I met a gentleman, total skeptic on the surface, but he had had an encounter with these kids. And this was a guy, he's detailed pretty thoroughly in the book, 6'3", bodybuilder, martial artist, prison guard. Not a man used to feeling fear. He had seen people shanked in prison, brawls, everything you can think of. He met these two kids. These two kids showed up on his doorstep. They tried to convince him to invite them in, and he experienced fear, complete fear. And that's another common factor in these encounters, is people start engaging these kids, and what happens is that the victim grows more and more nervous until they reach a state of panic, and they have to run away. They slam the door, they drive away, whatever the conditions are. They just have to get away from these kids. And, they end up, afterwards, these people are essentially trauma victims.
Is there a correlation between these people that are getting visited by these children? I mean, is there like you mentioned a guard at 6'3", bodybuilder? Are they people who are very fit and...
No. I always look for the patterns. I know where you're going with this. I always look for the patterns in these things. There are very, very few patterns. There's no commonalities in religious belief. There's no commonalities in race, age, nothing. One of the few commonalities I've found is that there is an unusual number of people who have encountered these kids, and these people are in positions of authority. So I have a lot of accounts from law enforcement, military, government employees. For some reason, a lot of the victims of these encounters have some position of authority in their day-to-day work.
Why? What?
That's a good question. It honestly is. I'm looking at a lot of different factors. I mean, those are all high-stress jobs.
Uh-huh.
Those are jobs that are very oriented towards service to some degree. So you start looking at all these correlations, but none of it necessarily makes sense yet. What's interesting to me is that a lot of these people, military and law enforcement, these are trained observers. And they're also often conditioned not to
be afraid,
not to respond in an emotionally reactive way. But damn, that's what happens.
It sounds to me like it's an experiment. Will these kids scare anybody that they come across? Is it all right? 300-pound big bodybuilder guy. I'm 3 feet tall with black eyes. Am I scaring you enough to run away? You know, that's what to me it sounds like. You know, that's like somebody's doing an experiment someplace.
It does reek of being experimental to some degree. You know, there are commonalities with these kids and the Men in Black. For instance, a lot of people strongly believe that these kids are alien hybrids, and that they're trying to learn how to interact with people. But you're right. Not many people pick up on that, but it does reek of something experimental to me too, because they come in, they create these conditions, and then they vanish. You know, we've got people law enforcement that, you know, turns his head this long and looks back, and the kids are gone. Yeah. So, you know, it almost indicates that they have some kind of interdimensional abilities to me. Wow. So, you know, whatever they're trying to accomplish, obviously if they're attempting mind control, they haven't quite perfected it yet, because none of these people really fall under the spell. You know, they're able to break it off to some degree, enough to get away from these kids.
So they're there long enough to do something, and then if it doesn't work, well, they're gone. I mean, you know, I see what you're saying. You know, the mind control. Are they really frightened? Wow. Now, since you mentioned Men in Black, has any of those type of persons or people appear anywhere near the black-eyed children, or have been seen, or any like cars parked out down the street, any black vehicles, you know what I'm saying?
No.
Nothing?
Not that I have been able to find. But there's some really odd things that have come in. You know, there's some indications recently that these kids have some kind of a connection to causing electronic interference.
That's a whole different area.
That's a whole different spectrum. But again, it reaches back to the Men in Black.
Wow.
I mean, I can tell you, you know, some really weird things have happened just since the book has come out in conjunction with that.
What's that?
Well, I'll tell you how this started. The book was out probably for a month or so, and I got this email from this woman, and she said, I don't want you to think I'm crazy. I just want to know if this has ever happened before. But here's what happened. I started reading your book, and the smoke alarm in my house went off. I had to unplug it. No big deal, right? One odd thing. Second time she starts reading the book, the timer on her stove goes off. She says, I never used that thing. I didn't even know what it sounded like. The third time she sits down to read the book, her garage door opens itself. That was enough to figure out. She says, look, I'm interested in this phenomena, but I don't want any visits by these kids. So if this is happening anywhere else, please let me know. Well, I started getting a number of these accounts of people who were interested in the phenomena and were having weird electronic things go on. I got a call on my cell phone one day. I answered it. There's just background noise, and it's a number I recognized from a friend of mine. And I thought, oh, well, he just pocket dialed or something. Well, this happened several times, and every time, whether I answer or whether it's just a message, I'm getting all this background noise. And finally I thought, well, you know, I sent him a message. I said, hey, man, I think maybe your kid is getting hold of your phone and dialing my number. He apologizes. He says, oh, I'm really sorry. A couple nights later, he's sitting on his bed. His phone is beside him. He's reading the Black Eyed Kids. Out of his peripheral vision, his phone lights up. He looks at it. It's dialing my number. And it totally flipped him out. He runs over. He runs over to. Yeah, this is probably not the best advertising to sell the book, is it? But
stay right where you're at, right? I mean, dude, you're scaring me, man. I'm scared. All we need to do is that light bulb to go pop. Dude, you're out of here. Man, I mean, that is, you know, I've heard of the black-eyed children, but, you know, I never knew all this that you just told me about, you know, that's just, this is something totally new to me.
It's very complex, and it, like I said, it really crosses the spectrum of the paranormal. I mean, there are correlations with the whole spectrum. I mean, demons, alien hybrids, tricksters, ghosts. Just it runs the whole gamut, and we just don't know. It could be any of those. They could be tulpas, which are a type of thought form, being projected from the consciousness somehow. Because one of the things I found, one of the few other correlations I have found with people who have these encounters is that an extremely large portion of them, after the encounter, become more spiritual. They go back to the religion they were raised in, or they seek out a new religion. And there's no commonalities in that either. It's everywhere from Judaism to becoming, more devout Catholics or what. They're looking for comfort. They're looking for something that gives them that.
So
that
it scared them. It scared them that
it
much.
Scared them.
It scared them big time to go do that.
It literally changes their lives.
Wow. Yeah, that would. I mean, I'm a Catholic already, so it would. You know, I shut the door and say my Hail Marys and the whole thing. That would scare me.
Oh,
yeah.
you'd probably be doing some extra rosaries if you saw these things.
I think so. I would call a priest like there and then. So, wow. So what's next on your agenda? I mean, I know that just like me investigating. We're not going to stop until we can't walk anymore.
That's
that's just the way it is. Your love is it. Your love is just like what I enjoy doing. I mean, we're like kids in a candy store.
Oh yeah.
And it looks like you're married, so I hope your wife. And it looked like she's allowing you, just like my wife. She totally digs what I'm doing as well.
Absolutely.
And. Yeah, I mean, I'm like you said, I'm enjoying the hell out of this.
Oh my God, I love it. Like I said, my whole life exploring this stuff, and to me, it doesn't get old. Every new case is something new,
different.
and it's intriguing, and I don't think I'll ever lose my enthusiasm for it. And tons of projects in the works. I've got another book coming out this year on tulpas and thought forms. We touched on that just for a moment, and. Couple of other projects in the works beyond that, maybe some video work. So
sweet. Are we going to see it on TV anytime soon? Or?
No, who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, same here. Who knows? The way things are going, type of shows, reality shows, documentaries. I mean, they're popping up left and right on the networks, on the cable networks. Why? Because people watch them.
Exactly.
And another reason too is they're not that expensive to do.
Well, and here's something else that excites me about the paranormal shows. They get a lot of grief.
Yeah.
And I kind of see both sides of that coin. On the one hand, there is a glut of paranormal shows on television the last couple of years, and it has bred a lot of people that run out and buy a recorder and think they're a ghost hunter.
Right.
On the other hand, on the positive side, it's made people more comfortable with talking about these topics. I mean, my God, it was like pulling teeth when I first got involved in these fields, and people did not want to talk about it. So what I'm seeing is a transformation now where I think some of the newer shows that are going to come up, they're going to tap people who actually have the background, who aren't just actors, who are actually out there doing the work and have an investigative background in this field and know their research.
Yes.
Rather than just somebody the studio got because, hey, you look like a photography expert. That's what we're going to make you.
Yeah, I totally agree because there are shows coming out right now that are like that, yep. and I think it's going to keep on. There's going to be a lot more shows on TV. I guarantee it. I guarantee it because it sells. This stuff sells.
I hope so.
Yeah, it does.
I hope so. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. I mean, like I said, we love what we're doing, and we are not going to stop what we're doing. And there you go. So
I'm thinking 2013, the new Lone Gunman.
Dude, I am all over that. I am all over that. That's like a freaking. We'll talk about it later on. David.
Hey, dude.
Thank you very much.
It's been great, man.
It's been great. Remember, I told you I was going to do that happy dance maybe tonight.
After a few beers, right?
Exactly. So, all right. That was David Weatherly. Where can you get your book?
LeprechaunPress.com.
LeprechaunPress.com.
Those are signed copies, and of course, it's on Amazon too.
Amazon too. Sweet, dude. Go and buy this book, and the next time the TV turns on, or by itself, or the blender turns on, call up David and cuss him out because it's his fault. All right. Appreciate you coming on, David. Thanks a lot, man. All right. Black-eyed children, if you want to have nightmares, do it to it. Because I'm not going to get, I'm not reading it. Maybe I'll trust me, I won't. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Sacramento UFO Conference. Am I loud out there?
You're good, actually.
Actually, I'm good. I'm blasting you away. Right on. That's the whole idea, to wake you up. And it sounds echoey, though. I think I better bring it down.
Yeah, if you want to bring it down just a little.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Check 1, 2. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sacramento, California for this year event for the Sacramento UFO Conference 2012. And we've been here the weekend. So this event started yesterday, and now this is our second day into it. And we are continuing on with our interviews with the speakers of the event. And the first one today is, I'm flattered that he's here, the man who is behind the Dulce Underground base, the man who's wanted by the FBI, CIA, DIA, all of them, Mr. Norio Hayakawa.
Yes, correct.
How's it going?
Oh, great. I'm excited to be here, and it's an honor for me to be in your program, Jeff.
I appreciate that.
I heard so much about you.
Good things, I hope?
Yes, very good things.
I guess the reason why you're here and the reason why I'm here is basically because of Anthony.
That's exactly why I'm here. And I was contacted first by Anthony F. Sanchez in the spring of 2010. If he hadn't ever contacted me, I don't think I'll be here. And I don't think things would have, been the same. So I think it was destiny that he decided to contact me in 2010, saying that I was the most ideal person for him to contact in order to bring out his amazing story to this world. And that story is the confirmation that there is a Dulce underground base in Dulce, New Mexico.
Confirmation. For those people who think underground bases are a myth, there's no such thing as Area 51. There is so much going on that people have no clue. Is that right, Norio?
Exactly.
I mean,
this all seems to be covered up, and it's a fact that the underground bases are, it's a vital part of America's military, program. And yes, the concept of underground bases, I think, go even up to, even before World War II. So this is nothing new, but what's very fascinating is that there are several suspected underground bases, and these are very significant. And of course, you mentioned Area 51 in Nevada, and of course, on the surface, yes, it is. You can see superficial structures at Area 51 today, by the way, which is expanding. But anyway, the main interest about Area 51 is what's beneath Area 51.
That's where it's all happening. I mean, everything is underground. I mean, that's why it's underground facilities. What made you get involved? How did it all start?
Well, for me, it all started around 1987 when I received, 12-page hypothesis from a fellow that I had never met before, and his name was, of course, John Lear. John Lear, through a mutual friend of mine, sent me his hypothesis in 1987, stating that there are two important locations in the United States being covered up, and the first one is Area 51 in Nevada, and also a secret underground base in Dulce, New Mexico. And both of these facilities are tied in with some ominous governmental projects. And this was in 1987 when hardly anybody knew about Area 51. But speaking of synchronicity, yes, it was also in 1987 that I received a 10-page packet from William Moore, who also confirmed that there is an underground, a secret base in Nevada called Area 51. So both the Area 51 information and the Dulce information coincidentally happened at the same time to me. And so I found out about Dulce through this mutual friend, and this person was Tal Levesque, also known as Jason Bishop. So ever since that time, I was fascinated about this Jason Bishop's report about the Dulce base. And he is the one who sent me this drawing of this vats and this laboratory. It's just a drawing of something that looks like a tube, and inside were, drawings of a little, extraterrestrial creature. And so I became fascinated with it. That was in 1987.
Now, why did he send you the documents? What were you doing at that point in time for that to receive that stuff?
Well, that's a good question. It was in 1987 that I'm not actually sure why I got to know this Tal Levesque. I think it could have been, because I was living in California at that time.
Okay.
And somehow Tal Levesque, and I became an acquaintance. Maybe I have expressed to somebody my interest in UFOs.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha. So
And
that's
maybe
where I started right
that's
there.
right, that's right.
Gotcha. Wow. Okay. So your interest in UFOs, and then people, I mean, just like me, once you state your, involvement, then people realize that you're really serious, and they're going to start coming to you little by little
That's
by
right.
little.
That is correct.
Okay. So your love of UFOs now branched off to, okay, where are they keeping these UFOs, unidentified flying object, top secret, military. Now you were living in California when you found out about the Dulce.
That's right. That is absolutely.
So you moved to Dulce, where you moved over there, right?
I moved to New Mexico.
To New Mexico.
4 years ago.
Okay.
But
So how far are you from Dulce?
Yes, I live in the town of Rio Rancho, or city of Rio Rancho, which is right next to Albuquerque. But from Rio Rancho to Dulce, it's only about 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Just hop, skip, and a jump.
That's right.
Okay. So, so how long have you been in the New Mexico?
Well, I lived in New Mexico from 1965 to 1973.
Okay.
And then from 1973, I moved to Arizona.
Okay.
But I have lived in New Mexico since 1965, so I know the area. I went to college there, and it was not a coincidence that I went to New Mexico because I was so impressed in 1964 with the Lonnie Zamora incident that took place, a few hours away from Albuquerque. That was 1964. That changed my life. That whole Socorro incident with Lonnie Zamora changed my life completely, and I began to take seriously UFO study, which I started in 1961, by the way.
Wow. So we're talking almost 50 years.
That's right.
Holy mackerel. You've been at it I'm not going to say longer than I've been alive, but well, that's awesome.
Yes,
So,
I used to subscribe to NICAB magazines and newsletters and APRO, APRO, from the 60s.
wow. So, Mr. Norio, you've been there, done that, and seen stuff, I'm assuming. So, okay, now let's talk about Anthony. Anthony contacted you, and we're talking about Anthony Sanchez, who's the one who's putting on this event in Sacramento. He contacted you because he was writing. Actually, was he writing? I guess he was writing the book about Dulce, and obviously you're the man to go to when it comes to that facility.
Well,
or was he writing the book on Dulce or something else?
No, he was not writing a book
Not
on
writing
Dulce,
Dulce.
but he contacted me in the spring of 2010 to let me know, and he introduced himself, who he was, and he told me that he just interviewed
The
a
colonel
in California.
Got it. Okay.
And then he had to write to me because he was so excited about this interview. And so he approached me, and he said he wants to expose the whole thing, this 3-hour interview with the colonel, and make it into a book format. And he was asking me if I could write a foreword to his book.
And you said, no way.
And I was very impressed with that interview with the colonel that Anthony sent me, of course, by text, form. And I decided, yes, I would be glad to write the forward.
You've been looking into Dulce, and all of a sudden this guy comes out of freaking nowhere, Anthony, with this interview. You're probably like, wow, this is almost like, I don't want to say confirmation on what's going on at Dulce, but this has got, this probably just piqued your interest big time. Now, ever since he notified you, and then with the Colonel interview, Anthony has gone down to New Mexico even to get into it even farther, deeper with you as well, hasn't he?
That's right.
Okay.
So Anthony Sanchez was fascinated, and I was also fascinated with the Colonel's the interview. And I decided to write a foreword to this book. And in the foreword, I stated clearly that when it comes to things like underground bases and conspiracies, it is difficult to find complete physical evidence, but yet there are so many circumstantial evidences to point out that there's definitely something there, because wherever there's a smoke, there's a fire.
Yes, yes. And there are, and when he says, Norio says evidence, it's not like an actual UFO landing at the base of the mountain. You have to look around that. It's a chain of evidence. What seems out of place? That should not be there. That wasn't there last week. I seen something last night that doesn't make any sense. Once you take all that into consideration, then you have to start figuring out that, okay, why is all this happening around this particular mountain? So evidence, let's talk about evidences. I'm thinking that you have seen a lot of military presence around that mountain.
Well, to tell you the truth, yes. There have been reports of, military vehicles in that area since around 1980s, and also people reporting strange flying objects. Also, people reporting. Of course, the main thing was the proliferation of the mysterious cattle mutilations in the Dulce area, beginning in the mid-1970s. So I became interested in this Dulce thing, as I mentioned, in 1987, after Tal Levesque sent me this information. But so I went to Dulce, and I took 8-member Japanese TV crew to Dulce in 1990.
Wow.
And started interviewing the people on the street of Dulce. I interviewed about 20 people, Hikari Apache, Native American people, yes. And they all confirmed to me that, yes, indeed, they had seen military helicopters in the Archuleta Mesa area. They had seen some strange flying objects, and they have seen all these things. And so I was interviewing these people, and suddenly we saw flashing patrol car approaching us.
Really?
Yes, and out jumped Police Chief Hoyt Velarde at that time.
Now, was he, a reservation police officer?
That's right. That's right. And he started asking us what we were doing, and he took our IDs, and we were just detained there for at least an hour, and. So I asked him, were we doing anything wrong by, interviewing people here? And he refused to answer all these questions. And finally, before he released us, I asked him, is it true that there's a base, UFO base here? And then suddenly his countenance changed, and he got shook up. And he says, I'm not going to answer that question. So that was his answer.
Was the media filming?
Yes, that's right.
Now, how did Japan media come down here? Did they just?
Well, they heard about Dulce in connection with Area 51.
Wow.
And that's why I don't believe there's such a thing as coincidence, because in 1990, the TV crew from Japan, we went to Area 51. We didn't go inside, of course, but we went to Bob Lazar's residence.
Really?
I had an interview,
holy mackerel,
which was very historical.
Yes,
and then after filming there, then we went to Dulce. So it was an amazing 2-hour documentary program that was broadcast in Japan in March of 1990, seen by millions of people, and the subject was the mysteries of Area 51 and Dulce. When at that time hardly anybody in America knew about Dulce or Area 51.
Well, then how did the Japan know about Area 51?
Well, because I mentioned
Norio.
to a magazine in Japan that there's a guy on the radio, talk radio in Las Vegas, who claims to be working at the secret facility near Area 51.
So, is it true that other countries are so much into UFOs and underground, the conspiracy? So, are they really into it way deeper?
Well, actually, yes. In the beginning around the 1980s, Japanese TV networks had lots and lots of programs about UFOs, and in fact, a Japanese Nippon TV network was the first network TV in the world to actually broadcast the 3-hour interview with Billy Meyer. That was, I think, in the 80s too. And so Japan was, a country that had a lot of interest in UFOs and took them seriously.
Wow.
And so this is the reason why in the early 90s there were many programs, TV Asahi, TV Nippon, and so on, that had shown these interesting programs at prime time. So the people in Japan in 1990, after March, knew about Area 51.
Now,
amazing.
Wow. Now, God, what was the question I was just going to ask you? Oh my God! I had such a great question I was going to ask you. Oh my God! Oh my God! Okay. Well, anyway.
So I mentioned to you, we went to Bob Lazar's house in 1990, and it did a 4-hour interview.
Okay.
And he told us that we should go to this location, and you'll definitely see a test flight of this object that he was talking about.
At a certain time, certain day.
That's right. Oh, it was on a Wednesday, by the way.
On a Wednesday.
That's right.
Where our sightings in Fresno happens on Sundays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
Wow, it seems like a Wednesday is a very...
It's called Hump Day, where Wednesday really, wow, and I'll tell you why. I have been documenting all the sightings in Fresno, what days are more popular than others. And it has Sundays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, Wednesdays being the most of them. And the reason I'm thinking is because Wednesday is the middle of the week. The families, the people, they're tired. They come home from work. They go inside, and they don't bother looking outside. They don't go out to party. They don't do anything. And most of the people are usually in their homes by 6 o'clock. And they're not out driving around because it's still the middle of the week, and they're tired. That's the best time to test top secret equipment.
Yeah, it's very convincing to me. And Bob Lazar told us that they do the testing on Wednesday evenings.
Wow.
And so, lo and behold, we were there on Wednesday evening, and after sundown, we started seeing this bright orange object arising from the Groom Mountains.
Wow. That just blows me away. It's another confirmation on my theory right there. I didn't know that, Norio. Thank you for that. Wow. Okay, so Anthony called you, and so Anthony put this book out. Because your interest in Dulce, New Mexico, is the military not liking you at all for doing this? Have they come up to you, told you anything? Are you like seeing things following you behind your back? You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I know what you mean. But the only time that I felt that I was being followed was, of course, in May of 1991 when we were chased dangerously by a military helicopter on Groom Lake Road, which is a public road. These helicopters. This helicopter came, about less than, I would say, 50 feet above our cars.
Wow.
And chased us for 8 minutes. But and then we were detained at the Highway 375 by Lincoln County Sheriff. Patrol cars. About 3 of them. But that was the only time that I felt that I was threatened. But as far as Dulce, I have never been threatened over there because Dulce is a topic that is still under investigation, and unlike Area 51, you cannot see the Dulce base. And that's the great mystery. Yet, there are so many circumstantial evidences, and if you ask the people in Dulce, which is a small community of 2,600 people, if you ask every single person over there, they know of a friend or a family or relative that had seen these things. Yes, everybody knows in Dulce that this rumor has been going on, and in fact, a lot of people believe. Actually, I would say that half of the people in Dulce believe that there's a base. The other half are not sure, and so it remains today. And the sightings even continue even today.
Wow.
So this is more interesting than Roswell, New Mexico, because Dulce, New Mexico is. The actions are going on even now, and people are still reporting UFOs and so on. In fact, one interesting thing is that the town of Dulce, people see military helicopters, and a very good example was in 2009 when I held the first time ever underground base conference in Dulce, New Mexico. Early that morning, on March 29, 2009, 2 military helicopters hovered over Best Western Hotel.
No freaking way.
And actually, among the audience, about 135 people that came to the conference, historic conference, was a couple that presently goes by the name of Colonel X.
He was there?
Colonel X and his wife.
He was there?
Was present, according to the confirmation by the colonel to Anthony Sanchez.
So basically then
he witnessed the 2 helicopters. He
among,
and his wife.
Among other people as well, like you? Or?
That's right. I wasn't, it was 6 o'clock in the morning, early in the morning, so, we just heard the thunderous roar of blades of helicopter.
I would have been running out of that hotel in my underwear thinking they were going to drop a bomb.
Yes, but that was reported by local residents later on who testified at the conference that there were 2 military helicopters that the morning of the conference.
I mean, how stupid can you be? Hello, we're trying to keep this top secret. Oh, let's send a couple of military helicopters to hover over where they're holding this conference about a non-existent military. I mean, come on. How much more confirmation can you get?
That's right. And the strange thing is that the colonel claimed in his interview with Anthony Sanchez that he and his wife was drinking coffee outside the Best Western early in the morning.
Did anybody get any video?
I have not seen any videos, but it happened so suddenly.
Yeah.
And several of us staying, many of us heard the sound of the helicopter, but it was too early in the morning, so.
So why do you think they sent 2 helicopters?
Well, I think
not to scare you.
No, I think they tried to
intimidate. But no, there's no reason. They had 130 people there.
Maybe it was an indication that yes, this is a serious subject and there's something there. Maybe it's an indirect hint that the Dulce is definitely.
But why would they even want to give you a hint?
I have no idea.
Now maybe by 6 o'clock in the morning. Nowadays they have the old lasers and they can hear exactly what's going on inside. Maybe they were trying to listen, but no, that's stupid to me to send 2 helicopters.
Yeah, that is a mystery, but the fact is that Dulce is nowhere near any military base. There's not a single military base in or outside of Dulce, and yet Dulce is a place where you see military helicopters. People report military helicopters. In fact, a friend of mine, the late Gabe Valdez, who was a New Mexico State Highway Patrol officer in charge of Dulce for many, many years, he confronted one military helicopter trying to land at an airport, small airport in Dulce. And he showed his badge, the New Mexico State badge, and he said, "You cannot land here." And there was a small, confrontation, a verbal confrontation, and finally the military helicopter left and did not land at the airport because Gabe Valdez was in charge of Dulce because he was assigned to be in charge of that place because of the numerous cattle mutilations that began in 1975 in that area. So Gabe Valdez was very a person that very much liked by the people of Dulce, because the people of Dulce do not want military to be there, because it's not a military location and they have no right to come to Archuleta Mesa. So there was a confrontation there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the reservation, the people that they have cattle, and helicopters are probably scaring the cattle and just creating a dust, and agriculture. Helicopters aren't really good with the agriculture, so I can understand their concern about all that. So that right there, I mean, 2 Army helicopters come out of nowhere. That's just basically confirmation all the way. We've been talking here at the conference, letting you know about Fresno, and Fresno and Dulce, New Mexico is sort of kind of in the same, what we're experiencing over there is what you guys are experiencing in Dulce as
Yes,
well.
I think definitely, Central California area, especially a little north of that too, is also connected somehow with places like Area 51 in Nevada, and further maybe even Dulce, because as you mentioned before in this conference, that you had seen 737 unmarked jets, transporting who knows who to other locations.
And for all those people who don't know what those are, the Janet airplanes, the 737s with the red stripe on the side that had been seen leaving McCarran out of Vegas, taking the workers to Area 51. I have seen them parked at Fresno. So again, chain of evidence, you really don't know what's there, but when you have that, that's like, that gives it away.
Definitely. And, I think this area is very, California is very important. Like you have the Beale Air Force Base. There have been strange incidents there, as I'm not sure you've heard.
Where?
Beale.
Oh, Beale? Yes.
Beale Air Force Base. And so there's a connection there. But, going back to Dulce, New Mexico, it is a convenient location for the U.S. government to conduct any kind of experiments, such as investigation and, research into paranormal. I believe that the government is hiding their knowledge of paranormal phenomena in that area. No question in my mind.
Now, when you say paranormal, obviously, unidentified flying objects, is there when you say paranormal, now we're going to branch off here. Is there other things that are occurring over there as well?
I think, yes, definitely. People even continue to report sightings of what they describe definitely as a Bigfoot by the Navajo River in Dulce.
Okay.
Many people have reported sightings of Bigfoot by the river of Navajo River, which is right next to the Archuleta Mesa. Now, the Navajo River basically goes around the Archuleta Mesa, and so it's right next to Dulce, and there are picnic areas. And I have heard from the local residents that the Bigfoot, cases of Bigfoot coming and taking food from the picnic table.
Wow.
Yes. And this is not just imagination. These are testimonies of people who live in Dulce.
So we're talking the people that belong to the reservation?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Even Hoyt Velarde, who has retired, but he keeps on continuing. He continues to investigate the Bigfoot reporting even today, and he believes that there is that phenomenon. Plus, people report other phenomena such as hearing ancient Indian chants when there are nobody there. So I think that there is this thing called some kind of a paranormal type of a vortex area. I think that's a very important idea.
That's exactly what we believe we have in Fresno as well. We have Bigfoot and UFOs and, ghosts as well, spirits, and just... and that's just weird because I didn't know about the Bigfoot at Dulce and
Dulce is
Archuleta.
well known.
That's crazy. That just blows me away. That's awesome.
Not only Bigfoot, but people have reported...
any flying creatures by any chance?
Well, they have reported the so-called skinwalkers. And, so this is all part of the Native American people's also belief in the spirituality they believe that they came from from underground, and so it's a convenient place to do research. And I think the government is convinced that there are paranormal activity in the Dulce area, and conveniently the people there just that's a culture, and so it's an ideal location. But I think the U.S. government could be covering up their interest in the paranormal.
Wow. So do you think that the paranormal was there for a very, very, very long time? The military found out about it and then decided to set up a base there?
I think there's a great possibility in that, and then that could be part of psychological warfare or psyops program, because many of the psyops program of the U.S. military seem to use that type of situation, paranormal phenomena, and how to use that in a psychological warfare.
Wow.
And so, plus, of course, with the cattle mutilations, there are people who say that the government is working on bio-warfare program at that area, and there have been anthrax found in cattle mutilations, in the cows. So it's very possible, and the Edmund Gomez of the, one of the sons of Manuel Gomez, who owned the largest ranch in Dulce, Edmund Gomez is convinced that there is a governmental biolab under Mount Archuleta.
And that's where they're doing all that. Okay.
But see, people still report UFOs. I have a photo of UFO picture taken by Dory Vigil of Dulce just last year, and I posted on my site. But it's very fascinating. So this reality. The reality is that there's definitely something there. It could be an underground base. It's very possible.
So you think ley line, vortex, Stargate of some type, maybe?
Yes, actually, that's my belief. That's my belief. Because this subject, we cannot separate UFOs from the non-physical phenomena. I believe that we have to study UFOs and ufology inclusive of paranormal phenomena, because that's what... just listen to people like Dr. Jacques Vallée, who has stated that UFOs are part of a phenomenon that we still don't know. It has a dimensionality, and so we cannot separate that.
Right, right.
There are those who study UFOs only from physical nuts and bolts type of
And I believe, like I said, we can talk probably for hours and probably match up all the coincidences from Dulce and Fresno, and it's just that, you've known about Dulce for the longest period of time, and we're barely getting into the Fresno area and what's going on, so hopefully maybe they'll leave you alone and come and bother me now, because, but you know what, also too, I heard that, because Fresno is not too far away from Area 51, China Lake, and I have seen diagrams where, there are vast tunnel systems throughout the United States of America, and people say that we have these subway cars that'll get you from one location to the other location just like that, in a matter of minutes, where it take hours and hours. And I have seen where Area 51 to China Lake to Dulce to Edwards Air Force Base. Does it go further, even east?
Well, I think according to the map devised by Tal Levesque in 1981 or 1982, the bulk of the tunnel connections are in the southwest United States, with the Dulce as the hub. If you look at Tal Levesque's underground tunnel connection map, you can find that Dulce is the hub of all the connections. So from Dulce to California, to Nevada, to Utah, of course, and to Colorado, these are the main hub of underground connections. I have not seen any maps or any underground tunnel connection schematic map back east at all. They could exist, but the main thing is in the American Southwest, including California, like you said, China Lake, Area 51 in Nevada, Dugway Proving Grounds in Utah, Colorado, NORAD, and Denver International Airport, Albuquerque, Los Alamos, and White Sands.
Let me tell you something that happened in 2001. When President Bush was inaugurated, he came down a month, everything was in May. Very soon after he became president, they said President Bush is going to come to Fresno, California to go and talk about the Sierra National Forest, how to preserve the redwoods and all that. Well, Air Force One brought him to Fresno. 4 helicopters were waiting to take him, his entourage, media, Secret Service, took him up to Sierra Mountains, to the redwoods. President Bush spoke behind a podium saying how we should preserve the redwoods and all that, and we pretty much thought, okay, that's pretty much going to be it. He's going to come back to Air Force One, and they're going to take him back to the White House. Well, that's not necessarily what happened. 3 helicopters brought back his entourage, the media, and all of the other people, except President Bush didn't come back. President Bush stayed at a cabin up there for the night. Now look at this. I had a friend who was a forest ranger at that time. He said at about 1:30 in the morning, the helicopter was heard take off and go north of Fresno and land. And at about 4:30, it came back.
That's interesting.
Okay, and that's you could Google it. As far as him staying at how often do you hear, or even ever do you hear a sitting president staying in a cabin? It's just not heard of. So I'm thinking that his daddy, Mr. CIA himself, wanted to show his son what we really have. And that's why I think that what we have in Fresno is way deeper than I think anybody knows of. Because, what I'm getting at from people is that I need to be careful. You're getting this close to finding out what's going on. And the President Bush thing is just another little part of the evidence that says, you know what, open your eyes, this doesn't make any sense.
Yes, that's very interesting, Jeff, and I'm really looking forward to that National Geographic TV special that you're involved in, and I'm looking forward to seeing that mysterious white vans and the incident in the Fresno area. But especially, I'm interested in this Owens
Mountain.
Yes,
that right around that area. Yep. There's there's a lot of different mountains out. Somebody's telling me right behind there, that's where it's all happening. So it's just a matter of me getting out there with my entourage and sticking our feet in there, and let's see what happens. So, well, Norio, I appreciate you coming on and talking about this. I think in about 15 minutes, Anthony Sanchez has invited me once again to go on stage, and this time we're going to talk about the triangle crash, because that's how I met Anthony. Anthony was in the process of writing his book and heard about the triangle crash and called me. And again, the first time talking to him over the phone, it was, really a triangle crash, that doesn't happen very often anywhere. And on top of that, getting video of a lot of things happening. So, what's funny that, and I think you might have seen the pre-printing of the book where he had the Jeeps. And
definitely. I saw the picture of the triangle craft in Anthony's first version.
Yes.
And
I guess what he told me is, and I don't know if this is the truth or not, but the publication people didn't want it to include that. I don't know why, but in about 2 weeks, the National Geographic is coming out with the new UFO show, Chasing UFOs, and it's going to talk about that.
I think definitely it's going to open up a can of worms.
I think it is. And I think Anthony, as publicist, and they should be listening, say they need to reissue this book with that chapter in it.
Definitely.
You know what I'm thinking? That, that he can definitely sell some copies there. So, all right, Norio.
Thank you very much, Jeff, for inviting me today.
And do you have a web? You have your own show as well, don't you?
No, I don't have any show. I don't have any books, but I give information on the internet. People can just befriend me on Facebook.
Okay, Kerry, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Sweet. All right. I was listening to you when you were speaking, and we're two different. We got two different things going on here. I am a investigator that goes out and looks for the truth. You get the people that go out and get the truth, and you basically tell everybody about it, right? In a way, I mean,
well, actually, I have to investigate as well.
Okay. You are very popular. Everybody knows who in the hell you are. It's as simple as that. I mean, you are out there. You have thousands and thousands of people who listen to you every frickin' week, and that is awesome. Why? Because you are making some noise out there. You are. And what I want to know is, there are stuff going on. I mean, we can go on forever, but we only have a certain amount of time. So what I want to do is I want to talk about the reptilians, the Greys, the UFOs, military. Okay. In Fresno, we have an underground facility, a couple of them, as a matter of fact. And we believe that the reptilians are underground. Our military know they're there. And you probably have no clue what's going on in Fresno, but oh my God. When you said you were going to have me on here pretty soon on your show, we're going to blow it up. We are going to blow it up. I'm just going to blow you away what's going on.
You can try.
I'm sure you've heard it all. Underground facilities. Okay, have you ever hear anything about in Fresno?
Yes.
Okay, fill me in. What have you heard?
Well, actually, I have to tell you that I've driven Highway 5 a lot, and actually recently I ran into a bunch of troops hanging out at some really kind of like gas stations, and I don't know, there's these turnoffs, places where you can get something to eat really quickly, and there's no reason for them to be there, like zero. There's nothing out there except agricultural land, and I think I mentioned, it's just very interesting. And it's not the first time I've run into troops out there. Our understanding is there is an underground base that goes all along Highway 5 underneath the ground. And as a sensitive, I can sense that as well. So I am not surprised about Fresno, actually. Although I am surprised about those ruins that you seem to have stumbled on. I think that's quite interesting. I don't know where that's going to go. I am interested to hear more about that.
Sure. We just had a discussion about 2012. Let's talk about that a little bit. Nibiru, solar flares. There's so many things that I hear that could possibly be coming our way. I mean, obviously, the government's preparing. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They are.
Yes, absolutely.
What do you think in your heart that is going to happen?
Well, I kind of just answered that on stage, but I guess to be more specific, I mean, I stay open. I think a lot of people maybe don't understand exactly where I'm at on a personal level, so I'll talk kind of personally here, just for a change. And what I would say is, because I'm an intuitive, I wait to get information coming into me on an internal level. And what's funny is, I know I'm the one person that people come to give information to. And although I look at all that information, and I certainly listen to it, and I do put it out there as best I can, and bring it to people so that they get it also, and they can kind of look at that whole sort of smorgasbord of information and pick and choose what makes sense to them. If you look at Project Camelot, you will actually see that we are solving a mystery and that it is going in a direction. It is not just random, and we don't just invite anyone to come on and just say anything. And if you listen to my interviews, I get attacked by people that are saying, oh, you're leading the witness, or you're doing this, or you're doing that. You're aiming to get a certain thing out of that person. And the fact is that I get intuitively a message about where that person is lying, or where their kind of programming is kicking in and they're getting into a monotonous kind of sort of telling of what they've told over and over again, and I throw them off that track, and I'm looking for that piece of information, that piece of gold that is going to be really the new piece of truth that they have to bring forward, and why I was sent to them or why they were sent to me. And something you have to keep in mind is a lot of whistleblowers are actually coming to us, and we decide if we're going to interview them. And a lot of people, I don't bother. People write me all the time. People send me stuff. Some people beg me to interview them. I just don't do it. So there is a method to the madness. But I will say that when all's said and done, I am waiting for my inner guidance to tell me what to do, okay, and where to go and where to be. But a long time ago, I made a decision that during these days, I would be on the cutting edge. I would be on the front line. There are some of us that have chosen to be that, possibly yourself. In other words, we're going to take the bullets first. I'm willing to do that. Now, if it's positive, awesome, dude. I'm there. Samadhi is a very natural state to me because I as I have said, connected my chakras and did all of that work in my 20s. So I've been doing this for years. And I think that bliss is all very nice, but when all's said and done, it's all about coming back and helping your fellow man and woman. It's about helping the people on the planet. So I'm not all about, bliss and happiness and fairy tale and making my life happy. Actually, that's cool because I can go there anytime I want. And I believe, I'm happy right now. I'm happy to be here. I think this is it. I think we're it. And, I like aliens. I like, visitors of all kinds. And I've been visited by lots of different beings. That's another thing. So I know I'm kind of going all over the place, but when you ask me about 2012, it's really about, well, how is it right now? And right now, I can tell you that I've had some amazing sort of incoming energies to me in the last few months. So I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are entering some amazing times in terms of that, the energetics that are changing us and changing our body and expanding our minds. And so to me, that's the most inspiring thing that's going on right now. I know the government's planning some diabolical stuff. I know that some of those things and the earth changes, I know that that will wake up people that have basically closed themselves off in kind of cocoons of sleep. And the ones that are, drinking beer and watching TV and watching football games and, believing the right-left politics and all this nonsense and don't understand the whole thing's orchestrated, The ones that are awake are the ones that interest me. Those are the ones that I'm speaking to. And all I want to do is get them to wake up because I know that all they have to do is walk into a room with their family members, and they're going to change the atmosphere and the chemical makeup of that room, and that's going to start stimulating their family members to start waking up. They don't even realize they're going to do that. When you leave here today, that's what's going to happen. You can't help it. You've got a charge that's happened to you just by being here and connecting with these, wonderful people that are here and trying to get to the truth of whatever it is. So it's that connection between humans, and it's also looking towards this amazing future that eventually we're going to create. I'm sure of that. And I'm sort of here to be on the avant-garde of that as well. So I'm not just here about doom and gloom. I'm definitely looking for a positive future. I think we're going to go through some rough times. I'm not going to, lie to you. But in the end, I'm an eternal being. You're an eternal being, and we're going back to source. So it's all good, I don't know. It's a drama. It's being played out. I'm still here for the movie.
Awesome. I was talking to somebody. I met somebody here yesterday. As a matter of fact, he's out on one of those tables. He is in the military. And one of the things that was really frightening me is that the government obviously is planning something. Now, let's talk about that. is the government, the military, are they the same in one? And from what I heard yesterday, no, it is not. I heard from a gentleman out on one of these tables that the military knows what the government is doing. They know exactly what they're frickin' up to. And he even told me that they're talking among themselves that if the government is planning something, are they going to tell the military to basically do what they are told as far as, kill our fellow man? And he said, hell no, we are not going to do that. The military are not going to take us out. And that's what I hear. And
well, let me say this. No, maybe our military are not going to, but that's why the Chinese troops will be brought in. That's why troops from other countries, Russians, whatever, that's why the United Nations will step in.
Right.
Our own people know they won't turn against us, at
Right.
least not all of them. But, and the robots, what about the robots? What about the drones? They have tons of robots under the ground, android robots, human-looking robots. They're prepared to do whatever they need to do. Yes, the government's planning something. No, you're right. The military, first of all, the military is split. There are different ET races running different parts of the military. From what I understand, the Navy goes with one group, the Army with another, the Air Force with another, and then you've got the Russians going with another group and the Chinese going with another group. And so you got to understand it's a real mixed bag out there. And you've got the white hats, which across the board, it's like a line, a sort of a layer within all the different militaries and all the different agencies. We call them white hats. They are the ones that are in there fighting for you. They're the ones that are releasing information to people like me in Camelot, maybe you. They're fighting the good fight, but from behind the other line, the line. So they are putting their lives on the line, but that's why we call them white hats. Some of them you may never know them. You may walk right up to the one, you may classify them as the enemy, and they may not be. They may have been doing the right thing for you, but from behind the line. So I try to, when I meet a person that's working for the military complex, I try to, keep an open mind as to where they're at. I keep also hoping that some of those guys are waking up on a daily basis just as you are waking up. And it's very likely that that's happening. It's highly likely because they're in a position, because they're going to stumble on things, okay? They're going to see things they shouldn't see. They're going to be told to come in to be reprogrammed. Like Robert Solis once told me, he was called in to go to the dentist. Well, he didn't need to go to the dentist, and he became suspicious. And fact of the matter is that man had, he actually had Native American blood, and they're very intuitive, and he sensed something was not right. He was a military man. He was called in. They were telling him to go to a doctor. He said, I'm not sick. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm not going to a doctor. I just interviewed this amazing man called Jim Traficant. I'm about to release his interview. I met him at the other UFO conference that I was just at, Conspiracy Con. And he's an ex-congressman who spent like 7.5 years in jail because they framed him, because he wouldn't do what they wanted to do, and he didn't want to play by the rules. This is one of those guys who's basically a white hat, who's been working prior to when he went to prison. He was working with the system. He was trying to be a good congressman and do the right thing. He was highly popular at the time, but he said the wrong things. He was honest. That doesn't wash. He wasn't looking for votes. He was looking for truth. That's very unusual. You're going to be blown away by my interview with him, by the way. This guy's been, stepped on in every way. They pretty much thought he was going to be dead in prison. It's a miracle that he survived to this point, and he's still talking. I mean, that's some serious guts, right? So I'm sorry, I'm kind of losing. The white hats are really our hope, in my opinion.
Okay.
So no, I don't think that our military will necessarily turn against us, other than the programmed ones probably. But on the other hand, there are going to be troops, and there are troops. There's evidence of troops that are here in the country right now. Those are the ones that are being trained.
Now, obviously, you got stuff coming to you on a daily basis. Is there a war going on right now with the good guys and the bad guys? In other words, the white hats taking out?
Yeah, I mean, it is really interesting. There was this, incident off the coast of California with a missile that was shot from nobody knew where it was shot from,
right.
And submarine and so on and so forth. And the bottom line is there was actually we were getting different conflicting sort of whistleblower back channel information, and part of that was because the guys in the military were being told by their superior officers certain things were going on, and then other people were being told other things. And in essence, it was the military was like in a mess, because it was one part of the military against the other part of the military, and the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. And one of those militaries is mixing it up. They are on purpose, creating things like 9/11, while the rest of the military is back there, or the FBI or whoever they are, trying to fight the good fight for you and do their jobs like normal people, and finding out they're being lied to by the very people they work for. And this is when their eyes get opened. So it's a huge.
Now, not too long ago, we had a massive explosion in Virginia, I believe, where somebody said there was about 60,000 people who perished underground, and those were the ones who were against the American people. Is that fact? Did you hear anything about that, or am I just picking on something that?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of talk about sort of explosions and wars going on in underground bases or whatever. Not going to name any names. Certain people are talking about that. I've even interviewed some of those people. I'm getting conflicting information, let's just put it that way, about that. And so I am as much a skeptic. It may not sound that way, but I keep an open mind. I don't just go, oh, this person told me that, so it's true. Yeah. No. I wait. I do what the military calls triangulate the information. I need 3 sources that come from completely different angles to tell me the same thing more than once. And then I begin to consider it, and we compare and contrast it. Bill and I used to have this thing where they would go, we would say, well, there's a red flag there because something isn't jiving. One of the 3 is not mixing. So is one of those people lying? It's a very, taking information and discerning the truth out of it, gelling the truth down from it, very complex. Who's being used? Who's a good guy? Who knows they're being used? Who's letting themselves be used? Who doesn't know they're being used, but they're being used for a dark thing? Who thinks they're a white hat, but they're not? The white... the light is parading as the dark, and the dark is parading as the light. It really is kind of switched opposite right now. And so I would not assume that because, I always said to people, if somebody's nice to me and they smile and they're a little too sweet, I'm suspicious. It's just just the way I am.
I better piss you off then.
No, you're doing a good job. But what I'm saying is, you know what I mean? Because an honesty is an honesty. It doesn't have all this sugarcoating nonsense. So when somebody has to sugarcoat something too much, it's suspicious. I believe, Sean David Morton always says, Kerry thinks that the movie V was a documentary. and actually I have to say that's true. For all intents and purposes, that was a great key to how they'll sell you everything they sell you. Whether it's toothpaste with fluoride in it, or, fluorescent lighting, or, telling you to take a flu shot. They're going to smile, They're going to give you a nice, pretty stewardess to shepherd you along the way when they pick you up in the UFO and they want to eat you for dinner. I'm sorry. I'm very, I do have a very sort of tell it like it is, I believe in that Christ came with a sword to cut through the bullshit, to put it plainly.
What do you see or what have you heard that we should be expecting, let's say, in the next 2 months? Anything?
Oh, God, next 2 months. Well, I mean, I have heard the end of June that there could be something serious go on with the financial system, but I've also been hearing that for months. Certainly they're working on it, okay? But I don't know when they're going to sort of pull the plug, so to speak, on that whole sort of house of cards. It could be a problem. I mean, I have had recent information saying that the dollar is going to go to zero, that they're going to, but they'd have mass riots in the street if this happened here in America. I mean, I know people aren't rioting about most everything, but I can guarantee everyone knows that. But on the other hand, they are preparing for just that kind of thing. They actually want you to hit the streets so they can kill you, so they can throw you in jails and whatever else. Your mind and your consciousness are the strongest weapon you have in this war. It's not really your guns that are going to win this war. It's going to be your consciousness. It's going to be your hearts and souls. And when all's said and done, I do want to say, I know that we were just in a panel and people were saying prepare, but I want to say that it's really going to be about helping your neighbor. That's what it's going to be about. It is going to be about working together and supporting each other. That's where we're strongest, okay? If we stand together, they can't touch us. In the end, it's just like Gandhi said, and I believe that. So that's where it's at for me.
So again, we're going to go over a couple of more questions that we talked about the panel because we got a new audience now out there. 2012. So basically, you don't expect anything major to happen at around December 21st. What do you think?
Well, actually, no. I do expect amazing things.
Okay.
I'm taking a group to Egypt on purpose because of that. I want to hold the light in that area where there's been a lot of darkness of late, where the powers that be have basically taken control of Stargate. I'm going to bring some very strong, individuals, some of whom are listed on my website. Jordan Maxwell is now considering coming on our trip. Sean David Morton, Miriam Delicato's coming. Rebecca Jernigan, Michael Tellinger, myself, Hugh Newman. I'm looking to get a group together that will change the sort of balance of energies at the Giza Plateau because it's a key spot during the transition. But I do believe we're going to have some highly energized, whatever you want to call that. Part of what I consider to be like Paul Laviolette talked about, the super wave. I believe the super wave is here. I believe it's incoming. And that's the only thing that he couldn't sort of come right round to say because he didn't necessarily see the scientific evidence. But I have whistleblower testimony saying that they sent superluminal craft out beyond the edges of the solar system years ago, and they saw the wave heading towards us. And that, so that's happening. And I do believe that there could be like some giant, the TV show Fast Forward, there could be some mind-altering moments in the next, around the 21st of 2012. So I'm going to be there. I'm going to be helping that situation. But at the same time, I also believe that between now and then, they may want to roll out a few things. I'm not so sure they're going to be successful. I think there'll be some problems. We've got a lot of white hats out there that are countering a lot of their moves. We've got a lot of positive beings, unseen beings, presences that are here trying to help our side. There's a lot of negative side on the other. It is really like that. You're watching the movie and everything heightens. But I also don't think 2012 is just it. In other words, I do agree that there could be some catastrophic things coming down the pike in 2013. I've had a lot of precog dreams of the future. The trouble is that, as I say, is that we have multiple timelines that we exist on simultaneously, and the trouble is knowing which one's going to play out. But things could take a turn, and we could end up on one of those timelines that I've seen. If that's the case, then we have some very heavy-duty things coming down the pike. I do know that Bob Dean never wanted to talk about what he really saw between now and 2019. Okay? So we've got a slew of years in which we are going to have to deal with some stuff, major stuff. And, there could be some major events. So, no, I would never say there's nothing, much going to happen. I would say there's everything going to happen. And maybe small bits and pieces of all of it, and maybe some worse things, and maybe some absolutely spectacularly wonderful things. It's going to go the gamut.
We have the Olympics coming up, 2012. I hear false flag. What do you hear?
John Irwin is one of my whistleblowers. He wrote a book called The 16. He lives in England. He's been sending me information, constantly about thinking there's a false flag going to happen in London. I happen to believe that, London is the financial center for the Illuminati, City of London. I don't think they're going to do anything too major over there. They might have a few, try to scare people or something. Sure, I could be wrong, but that's just my gut feeling. I'm not seeing anything right off the bat right now with London and the Olympics. What I don't do is talk about the things that I do see in terms of negative experiences, because I'm not sure they're going to happen. I could throw them out with just a litany of stuff, but would it mean anything really? The other thing is that things do change kind of on a dime, and the Illuminati themselves will change things on a dime. I mean, you got to look at it this way. These people work underground. They use Cray computers to triangulate and figure out strategically, well, if we do this, then if this will happen, and then that'll happen, and that'll happen. It's like it's like a pool table where you have a billiard ball, and you're trying to angle it to hit this wall and that wall and that wall and that wall, and you can. There's a lot of different scenarios. In other words, the ball could go in a different direction, or there are different alternative ways of doing it, and then all of a sudden there's something they didn't predict. And the one thing, again, and I just keep stressing this, the one thing they cannot predict is your consciousness. That's it. That's the one thing. That is the variable that is just not predictable. And you must know that they put all this time and all this effort in the programming out there to dumb you down because you are so fucking frightening when you get together and when you wise up. So I put my money on that, all right? That's what I'm interested in. And that's why I don't sign and seal and deliver the future. Because I'm interested. You are not predictable. That's what's so wonderful about human beings. In the end, there's this X factor, call it what you will, about humans. They just can't nail it down.
And that goes for the conditioning on TV, like you said. All those, what you see, V, Skyline, Battle of Los Angeles, Independence Day, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. You think it's just a coincidence? No. They are in cahoots, and they know exactly what they're doing. They're scaring the crap out of you guys. That's what they're doing.
Well, let's put it this way. They're scaring some people.
They're scaring some people.
There are some people that are just fucking aren't scared.
Right.
Absolutely. We're just not. No. Get over it. So, I think there are a lot of kids out there that are like, bring it on, dude.
Sweet. Kerry? Thanks, man. Sweet. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thanks, everybody, for being here. That's it. We are done. 2012 Sacramento UFO Conference.
You have been listening to Paranormal Central with Jeffrey Gonzalez and Alan Thomas, broadcasting worldwide at paranormalcentral.net and on artbell.com.